Today, we've got our weekly compilation. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. But before we dive in, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you're ready for some awesome content. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for getting angry at mother-in-law when she refused to give my baby back? My mother-in-law was holding my 6-month-old baby when I was having breakfast. I stood up and said, "I'll have her," and she said, "No, finish your coffee." I got a bit annoyed and said, "No, I will take my baby back," and reach for my baby. She giggled, pulled away, and said no. My husband was in the room too and was laughing as well. I got visibly angry and told her not to joke about this and give my baby back. I think it took another try or two when the mother-in-law was pulling away and keeping my baby. I was the only one angry, and mother-in-law and husband were laughing at me. When I got my baby back, my husband took her away from me. I removed myself from the situation to calm down. My husband thinks I'm the a-hole for reacting like this. Am I the a-hole? Just to clarify, I didn't get up suddenly and demanded anything. We have a great relationship and we're always friendly and positive. Mother-in-law handles the baby all the time as we're staying at in-laws for Christmas and have been here several weeks already. I didn't yell or throw hands. I cried in privacy after leaving the room. Not really. Would you get in the way of a baby chimp in front of their mother? Would you take away a lion cub around a lion? If a mom is asking for their baby back and they're being calm about it, well, even if they aren't being calm about it, give the baby back. It's not your baby. Might be family, not your baby. Give the baby back. Story 2. I left 40 guys standing in the rain after a 12-hour shift. Up until fairly recently, I worked as a camp bus driver in a major industrial area. What my duties were was to pick people up from the camp, where they lived for a certain amount of time. I was 2 weeks in, 1 week out, and take them into the plant and drop them off at a variety of drop-off areas, depending on what their job was. Then pick up anyone that was returning to the camp for their rest period. Now, there were certain designated areas for the buses to pick up and drop off. You know, a bus stop. And only buses were supposed to be parked in those areas. The issue was that people would keep parking their work pickup in the bus areas and block us off. We kept asking them to not do that. They kept doing it, and eventually it all boiled over when a higher up in the company started giving us smeg over picking people up out of the designated areas, because people kept blocking the areas with pickups. We explained why we did it, and the higher-ups promised to do something about it, but never did. The second time that higher-ups gave us smeg over picking people up out of our designated areas, my manager told us, the bus drivers, that the next time this happened, we should let him know via radio and then just leave. So that's what I did. Now, we didn't just spring this on our passengers. We made sure that every single one of them knew that the next time it was blocked off, that the bus would just continue on its way and leave them behind. When I spread the news to my passengers, I heard a lot of laughter and could tell that they didn't believe me. However, the next day, it happened again. There were pickups in our areas once again, and like the good little minion I was, I did as I was directed. Got on the radio to my manager, let him know what was happening, and left. I understand that there were a number of interesting phone calls afterwards, but we never had a problem with pickups in our area afterwards. I wonder if this driver got the side-eye from some of the pickups or anything. But as far as this story describes it, they gave fair warning. They asked several times. These people just blew them off. Now they're facing the consequences. Just not quite malicious compliance. It's just pretty much compliance to the manager. They had no choice. Story 3. Kicked out at 16. Parents took all my money. 3 nights ago, my parents and I got into a huge fight. I'm not a Christian. They're extreme Bible thumpers. I am bisexual. They believe I'm going to be burning in hell. I was forced to come out of the closet due to blackmail reasons, and my parents kicked me out. I managed to get my dogs and my keys, took my car, and left. We just moved to this state, so I have no friends. My siblings all have the same beliefs as my parents. My related family is all thousands of miles away. Last night, my parents cut off my phone plan and told me they're kicking me off of their insurance. Right now, I'm on my own with 2 large dogs, Pit Bull and American Bulldog, sleeping in my car. My parents forced me to quit my job last week so I could focus more on school. Last night, I checked my bank account. My parents drained the $1,000 savings I had in it. It was completely empty. I'm just scared and don't know where to turn. I primarily want to be able to take care of my dogs. I don't want to give them up, but I'm not sure how much longer I can without neglecting them. Giving them up would be out of absolute desperation. I will not give up on them easily. Having them around has protected me from many bad situations. I live in Tennessee. Any advice would be helpful. I also don't want to return back home. My mother is abusive. DCS has seen physical evidence of abuse, black eye, bloody scratch marks, bruises, and placed me back in the home. They're useless. These parents seem to be thinking they can scare their child straight. That it's just a phase, maybe. That's probably what they're thinking. But if you don't believe what this person believes, then why drain their bank account? I mean, are they thinking this is for her own good because this person is living on their own, no money, and it's the parents' fault? They just don't want to let her live like this. I don't know what advice I could give. I hope there are some resources that this person can get a hold of to be able to take care of themselves, to be able to get some help and get back on their feet. Story 4. Previous homeowner wants to come back and take their landscaping. Received a peculiar message this morning from the previous owner of my home. They want to know if they can take the hydrangea bushes from the backyard and front of the house as they're of sentimental value. We're talking at least a half dozen bushes, the kind that grow like trees. They're massive, and they're a part of the charm of our little cottage. And frankly, I don't want to see them go. I feel that I bought the property, landscaping included. We've lived here for 2 years, and this is the first we've heard of the sentiment attached to these plants. I'd be willing to offer a cutting from one of the plants, but I'm so afraid that if I give an inch, they'll take a mile. It just rubbed me the wrong way that they felt they could ask for my landscaping. I think there's some sort of landscaping statute of limitations here that's gotten passed. Why did they wait 2 years to ask? And I don't think that they have any kind of hold on this stuff if they decided to take it through legal proceedings. I mean, they've had enough time. Maybe they should have taken it with them when they moved. Or, yeah, I know they might not have had the ability to take it when they moved. But, yeah, it's very weird to ask for it at this time and claiming sentimental value. Weird. Story 1. I signed my ex-boyfriend up for the Church of Scientology. I saw that it was a funny trend to sign people up for random email lists and spam them, but I decided to take this a step further because he really burnt me in the past. I went to our local Church of Scientology's website and saw where you could input your personal information to receive messages from the church. Since I had most of this information from our time being together, I filled it out under his name. I did it with a few more churches of Scientology as well. I thought that this would only be a minor inconvenience with a few puzzling, harmless emails, but it turned out to be much worse. Recently, I saw that he posted on his Instagram that he was deleting all of his social media due to privacy reasons. At first, I didn't think much of it, but after a while, I started to wonder if there was any connection to what I had put in the Church of Scientology's website. So out of curiosity, I later decided to bite the bullet and DM him on Instagram in the hopes that he hadn't deactivated his account. A few minutes later, he responded, saying that he needed a break from social media. Ultimately, he told me not to worry about it and that he was going to delete his Instagram 10,000 followers later that night. I figured I was off the hook. A few weeks later, I was with a mutual friend of ours, and she updated me on his situation. Apparently, him and his family had been contacted by the Church of Scientology. Supposedly, they actually expressed interest. The mutual friend said that she hadn't seen him in a while and that none of his friends had heard from him in over a month. She said that it seemed like he was cutting off everybody. I just received word that he's dropping out of school after the semester ends and his family is moving to live with other church members. I know I technically signed him up for this, but I had no idea it would get this bad. He honestly deserved it after everything he did. I can't exactly state what he did and caution that this post would get removed. Just know that it was pretty fracked up and me and a friend of mine had to see a therapist. I can't speak to the severity of what this person did to you because I don't know, but that's still kind of scary, having this kind of hold come over this person. I mean, I used to do rideshare in Los Angeles, and I would feel uneasy just dropping someone off at a house that was near the Church of Scientology. So, yeah, this is kind of creepy to me, actually. Story 2. You say your kids are 13? Okay. So this happened about 10 years ago when I worked at the box office of a movie theater before automated machines were the norm. Adult tickets, 14 plus, were $11.99. Kids 3 to 13 were $9.50, and kids under 3 were free. I had a woman come to my till with 2 kids. Now, these kids looked to be about 15, though it can be hard to tell sometimes. As many kids don't carry any kind of ID, the rule of thumb was to sell either a kid's ticket or adult ticket based on how old the adult told us the kids were. Many people would abuse this and say the kids were 13 in order to save a few bucks. Typically, I didn't care, as I understood the prices were pretty high and this was a big chain, so a few older kids getting cheaper tickets wasn't a big deal. What was different this time is that the woman was very rude throughout the whole transaction. We have a series of questions we have to ask throughout the transaction, loyalty program, etc., and we would randomly get scored by mystery shoppers to ensure we were following the script. This woman was annoyed and short with me throughout the whole transaction when I was being super friendly and just trying to do my job. When we got to the part about what kind of ticket she needed, it went something like this. Me. How old are the kids? Her. Why? Me. So I know whether they need kids' tickets or adults' tickets. Her. What's the difference? Me. Adult tickets for 14 plus are $11.99. Kids' tickets for 3 to 13 are $9.50. Her. Oh, they're 13. Me. Okay. And which film would you like to go to see today? Her. Whatever film it was, I can't remember. Me. Okay, no problem. For 2 kids and 1 adult, that will be $30.99 total. Her. Actually, I'm not going with them. I'm just dropping them off. Me. Unfortunately, this movie is 14A, which means you have to be either 14 or accompanied by an adult to see it. Her. Well, they're 14. Me. You just told me they were 13. Her. They're actually 14. I just didn't want to pay the price for adult tickets. Me. Unfortunately, you told me they're 13. Unless you have an ID that shows they're 14, I have to assume what you first told me was correct and cannot allow them to watch this movie unsupervised as it's 14A. Her. This is ridiculous. So what are my options? me. They can either go to a different movie that is not 14A, or you will have to buy a ticket and accompany them to this one. After a lot of back and forth about options, she finally decided to bite the bullet and buy an adult ticket to accompany them. I like to think she spent the next 2 hours reflecting on how her attempt to save $5 ended up costing her $11.99 and 2 hours of her time. Realistically, she likely bought the ticket, accompanied them into the theater, and then left them there to watch the movie while she went shopping. Either way, it still cost her the extra $11.99 for her ticket. The difference here in the prices is really in my perspective, is really kind of small. I know there are some people that have really tight budgets, but again, if you're just going to be rude, expect people to kind of respond and not just blow over. People are just constantly thinking they can just mess with customer service representatives because customer service representatives aren't supposed to be able to, quote unquote, fight back like this person did. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for making my sister cry since I quizzed her because she wants to homeschool her kid? I'm going to get it out of the way and say I don't like homeschooling. I think it's almost impossible to do correctly on social and educational development. This is coming from someone that went to an awful public school. So my sister was talking about homeschooling her kid. She said she and her husband will teach her. My sister and her husband are not the brightest people, much more physically laboring than those who understand math. I tried to ask if that was a good idea, but she basically said, "How hard could it be?" So I started quizzing her, and these were not hard questions. For example, I asked what a verb was, name the planets, and a simple math problem. Literally asked her to do division. She could only name a few planets, and she gave the definition for an adjective, not a verb. Also, just completely wrong on the math. It was kind of sad. I told her the right answer and asked if she can't do it, how will she teach the kid to read or any math? She called me a jerk and left to cry. Her husband is on my butt, but my mom thinks it's a blessing. Am I the a-hole? I'm questioning myself. It's kind of in the way that you did it. If you asked, well, let me ask you, if you can't answer these questions, how do you think you'll be able to teach the kid? Or did you say it like, well, if you can't answer these questions, how are you going to teach your kid to do it? I mean, your views on homeschooling aside, it was kind of all in the delivery. If you were trying to speak out of a place of love and concern for the kid, as well as them, then not the a-hole. But if you were just doing this to kind of bully her, then yeah, I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know. So it's kind of a Schrodinger's, am I the a-hole? You either are or you aren't, depending on your behavior. Story 2. Of child-free weddings and entitled parents losing their minds. My fiancé and I are going to get married in a few months, and we've decided we don't want kids at the wedding. Kids are loud, they run around, they break things, and we don't want to have to deal with that on a day that's supposed to celebrate our relationship. We've assigned the roles that are usually performed by children to our beloved pets. My dog will be the flower girl, my fiancé's dog will be the ring bearer, and my 2 cats are co-maids of honor. Our friends, boyfriend's sister, and my brothers and their parents think this is adorable. Alas, our other relatives do not share this enthusiasm. Boyfriend's parents said they thought it was strange and were hoping that his cousin would be the ring bearer, but they've accepted it because they want us to be happy. My parents threw a fracking fit and accused me of placing animals above children. I calmly explained to them that this was my fiancé's and my wedding, and it really wasn't their place to decide who would be a part of it. Our pets are well trained and well behaved, which is more than I can say for our relatives' kids. My parents aren't coming to my wedding because I refuse to follow a certain sexist wedding tradition. father giving away the daughter. My dad told me since I was robbing him of his moment, there was no reason for him to be there. Good fracking riddance. One of the friends I've known since childhood is a mother of 3 and was going to be one of the bridesmaids. She was horrified when she learned that my dogs and cats will be at the wedding party. Surely her 3 ill-mannered kids should have had that honor. She threatened to not come to the wedding. I made it easier for her by taking her name off the guest list. My cousin, who has 2 kids, told me, rather smugly, that she would bring her kids anyway. When she and her family were actually there, surely I won't be able to do anything about it. I told her I would have her husband, and their kids escorted out by security. That shut her up. My fiancé's friend asked him to make me replace my dog with his daughter as the flower girl. He was warned to never bring it up again. This wedding will be a special day for my fiancé and I, and we will not let other people's entitlement ruin it. Sounds like they've got everything well in hand. They've got a firm grasp on their relationship, how they want it to go, how they want their day to go, and really are just trying to fend off the guests. These people are invited people, and they're sitting there trying to take as much liberty as they can. Can you imagine having to plan and budget for security for a wedding? Have you ever seen one that had security before? Let me know. Story 3. Today I fracked up by thinking I got kicked out at 6 and eating from the trash can and drinking from the bathroom tap. When I was 6 years old, I went to the shopping mall with my parents, which was on the opposite side of a large city. There were 3 levels in the shopping mall, and exiting them led to the same-looking car parks. My parents parked on the 2nd floor. We had an understanding that if any of us got lost, that we'd meet up in front of the car. I strayed off and went back to the car, following protocol. Lo and behold, I searched all over the parking lot and couldn't find the family car, not knowing that they were on the 2nd floor instead of the 3rd. I watched enough movies to understand that I must have been kicked out of home. I have to adapt, I thought. So I drank water from the bathroom taps and eyed the trash can to fish out freshly thrown food. I also shoplifted a small blanket and set camp out inside a toilet cubicle. I did this for most of the day until my parents frantically found me by yelling my name inside the bathroom I set camp in. I left the blanket in the cubicle and got out. I still kept this a secret from them to this very day. Well, apart from not checking to make sure you're on the right floor, I think this person kind of took things into their own hands and learned how to survive. She did a lot better than I would have when I was her age. She had a much better frame of mind on how to survive. Not too bad, actually.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 4. Landlord Airbnb'd my home when I was on vacation. I currently rent a home in California on a 1-year lease. I recently stayed in Vancouver for a couple of months with my family to spend time with my new nephew and enjoy summer vacation. When I got back to my house, I noticed that items from my house had been missing, such as my PlayStation, PC, and even an entire gun safe with a firearm inside. There was no sign of forced entry whatsoever. I filed a police report for the theft alongside asking my neighbors if they saw anything. This is where the what the hell comes in. 2 of my neighbors said they didn't even realize I was gone because they saw cars parked in front alongside people coming in and going out the entire time. I proceeded to ask my landlord if he has any repairmen or people coming in and going, since that's the only way somebody could have had a key to the front, and he said he rented out the space on Airbnb while I was gone. I am absolutely furious. He denies any wrongdoing, stating it's his building and I vacated for the 2 months. I was paying every deity damn month I was gone. I realized now he figured out I was gone since I let him know I would be gone for a few months, so instead of picking up the rent in person with cash, I would Cash App him. He is refusing any liability, saying he isn't responsible for the guests, and I should just file a renter's insurance claim? Nope. Get a lawyer. Yeah, again, not a lawyer here, but if this person was still paying for those 2 months, that's your place. And unless the contract specifically allows the landlord to rent out while you're gone, then you've got a solid case here. It's sad that it's going to have everybody dragged into court for a while, but get advice from a lawyer. It sounds like you've got a solid case, at least, somewhat of a solid case. Story 1. My husband would choose his girl best friend over me any day. I, 29 female, got married a year ago yesterday. My husband, 30 male, and I have been together for 5 years in total. My husband has been best friends with Sasha, 30 female, since they were in diapers. I knew that, and I never really had a problem with their friendship until my husband and I officially started dating. Sasha would always try and get between us, and every date we went on, she was there, coincidentally, which was relatively annoying because my husband would let her stay with us on all those dates. Now, yesterday was my wedding anniversary, and my husband forgot since he had a road trip with Sasha. I didn't know about this road trip until he said he was leaving. I didn't bother telling him it was our anniversary since he didn't remember, and he would probably still spend the day with Sasha even if he did know. I didn't bother telling him bye. I just walked out and decided I was going to go shopping and do something for myself. I did that, but then his mother called me during the day wishing me a happy anniversary and asked where my husband was because he wasn't answering his phone. I told her the truth about his whereabouts, and he didn't remember our anniversary. She was shocked and told me that she didn't think Sasha and my husband still had feelings for each other. I asked what she meant. She said that they did date in high school, but my husband told me that he never did like Sasha romantically. Everything started becoming more clear now. Maybe he did remember our anniversary but chose not to say anything because he loved Sasha. If he loved her, could have told me before we got married. I would have been hurt, but I understand feelings and I know you can't control them. I don't know how to comprehend anything right now. I'm numb and I don't get it. All I know is that my husband doesn't even love me. It just sounds like you need to have a very big, long conversation. I mean, I understand that you might be upset, but when he gets back, you just need to really talk about this. You might have to stay elsewhere for a while. I don't know. But there's a lot of lack of communication around here, and it's kind of surprising how you got married in the first place since Sasha seems to be there for all of this stuff. I'm just wondering how that happened. Was she at the ceremony hogging her way into the pictures? Was it like that intense? Story 2. Doc pay for being late by 2 minutes? Enjoy paying massive overtime. I worked in an electricity retailer call center. It was highly unionized, but the management tracked login times to the minute. One incredibly ridiculous thing that they did was if you were a minute or two late, they would literally dock your pay by that many minutes. It wasn't really enough for us to really notice, and I'm sure they didn't actually save any money. I mean, if you were 50 minutes late, I could understand not paying, but 3 minutes late? Well, eventually the union discovered what they were doing and were completely ticked that they hadn't been consulted about this jerk move. This is where their malicious compliance comes in. The union demanded log-in and log-off times for everyone in the call center. What management hadn't counted on was that all of us would often need to wrap up calls and clear the call queue before the call center could officially close. This often meant that operators would leave several minutes after their shift. On bad occasions, it could be 15 to 20 minutes late before they could clock off, but mostly it was only a few minutes. The union made management recalculate everyone's pay for the year based on clock on and clock off times. They also pointed out that staying past the end of shift triggered penalty rates. It turns out everyone, and I mean everyone, had spent more time wrapping up calls at the end of the day than they were late clocking on. Each of us got paid for lost wages at overtime rates. It cost them a fortune, and they never docked the pay of anyone who was late ever again. I mean, yeah, you're going to get that nitpicky, someone is going to get that nitpicky back at you. I mean, not well thought out at all. I mean, did anyone have a service rep? Did anyone that was a boss at this company ever have any dealings with union at all? I think they're going to pay more attention next time.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 1. My husband's ex-girlfriend is expiring. Her last wish is to be with my husband. As the title goes, my 30 female husband's ex-girlfriend, 33 female, was recently diagnosed with late-stage breast cancer, and her last wish is to be with my husband, 35 male. My husband, let's call him Seb, and his ex, Tanya, became best friends after their breakup a couple of years ago due to her infidelity. They were together for 5 years. Needless to say, they remained in contact even before he met me. I would be lying if I say it never made me feel uncomfortable even once. It did, and still does, because Tanya is still in love with my husband. She never denied it, and in fact, would even call or message me when she can't get a hold of Seb. Aside from cancer, she also has some mental health issues. Thus, my husband would always tell me to be kind and patient. Seb is no longer in love with her, of course. She cheated, and Seb swore that he will never get back to her and that he only sees her as family. 2 weeks ago, my husband received a call from Tanya to tell him about the sad news. My husband cried with her and told her everything is going to be okay. They were on the phone the whole day. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Seb and I moved to Australia a few months ago because of my job, and Tanya's in Canada. They mostly talk via long-distance calls or WhatsApp. They've been in contact almost every day since we left, which always bothers me, but what can I do? After that call, my husband told me everything. To be honest, I felt bad for her, and I genuinely felt sad. I asked him what's going to happen now. Seb told me he's going back to Canada, which is a shock. He then told me that her last wish is to be with him. I didn't say anything except, "What about me?" He said if I can't leave my job, then he's going to visit me whenever he gets the chance. I walked out without saying anything. I've been avoiding my husband since the phone call and have been ignoring him whenever he tries to bring up the conversation. Yesterday, I found out he already bought a ticket and is flying back home in January. I feel like he's abandoning me, but at the same time, I feel that I'm selfish for hating both of them. I'm honestly thinking of getting a divorce because obviously he's choosing her over me, but at the same time, I thought of why my husband is so attached to her. Seb considered Tanya and her family like his own, and he doesn't have one. She's probably like a sister to him now, but Tanya doesn't feel the same. She's madly in love with my husband, and him granting her wish will surely make her think they still have a chance. My entire life, I've been putting others first. I've been very patient and understanding about their weird relationship. I feel sick, confused. I want to call her, yell at her for ruining my marriage, for trying to steal my husband from me. for using her sickness to get what she wants, for being a shrew. I'm so mad at both of them. What did I do to deserve this? I don't think you did anything to deserve this. I mean, when he tries to bring up the conversation, I can understand that you would want to have some distance from him, but at some point you're going to have to confront him. It sounds like it is going to end up in divorce or something. It's really outlandish that this was her last decision, and he so willingly put her over you, the wife. I just really hope that you can get this resolved between you two. I'll be sorry if it ends in divorce, but it seems like that's what it's going to be, because he's just really ditching you and just putting you on second tier. It's awful. Story 2. Company says I tip too high when I travel, so I order more expensive food to tip high. When going over my expense report, my company saw I tipped 20% for lunch one afternoon. Lunch was $15. The tip was $3. They told me that's too much because I wouldn't do that with my money. Heck yeah, I do. I just took the better part of an hour of my server's time. The least I could do is leave $3. It's $3 for crying out loud. But rules are rules. However, my company is fairly generous, allowing me $75 a day to spend on food, which I never do, and that's about to change. For lunch today, instead of my usual salad or sandwich, I went for the lobster grilled cheese. And of course, upgrade my regular fries to the duck fat fries. Enjoy saving that 5% for the rest of my travel meal expenses. Heck, exactly. You want to do well? You want to spend with your money? You want to spend the money how you will? If that's what it takes to be able to support other people, I'm glad you're able to do it. Why are they giving you guff over $3? And once they go over these expense reports, how do you think they'll respond to this? I really hope they take a good long look at that. Story 1. I accidentally broke my boyfriend's ribs and punctured a lung after a prank. This just happened 2 nights ago, so I'm still reeling emotionally. I know this is long, but there's some important background context, and I'm in desperate need of answers. Almost 6 years ago, I, 29 male, lost my partner suddenly in an accident while he was overseas on a work trip. When I lost him, I cannot describe the pain and the anguish and the emotional hellscape that I found myself in. We planned a life together, and in a fraction of a second, it was all gone. In the aftermath, I completely collapsed as a human. I left my career in healthcare. I couldn't leave my apartment for 3 months. I lost 60 pounds and was already really skinny, and I just shut down. In short, I was a mess in every single way. With the support of some very persistent friends, community resources, and an amazing therapist, I started to process and move forward. Through intense therapy and temporary psychiatric help, I've been able to heal over the years, though grieving isn't a linear process. Fast forward to around 2.5 years ago when I meet my current boyfriend, 29 male. It's hard to describe getting into a relationship after losing a soulmate, but please know that he wasn't a rebound and isn't second place or anything like that. I do love him with all my heart, even though I'll always still love my late partner. My boyfriend has a foundation of similar values, ideal relationship dynamics, and communication styles to my late partner, but has a completely different personality, look, lifestyle, appearance, etc. I love him for all his differences as much as his similarities. My therapist and I knew that it was important for me to not date someone who I would expect to be a stand-in for my late partner. Her and I have checked in constantly through the major stages of my relationship to ensure that I'm sticking to that. At this point, I've honestly pictured what the rest of my life would look like with him in it, and he said the same. He was also the most understanding boyfriend when I first told him about my late partner's passing and my grieving journey. If there was a textbook way to handle the situation, he could have written the whole thing. I truly could not have asked for a better boyfriend. That was until yesterday. My boyfriend likes to play pranks on me, and he's even filmed some of them to upload online. It's not a constant thing or frequent enough for me to always be on my toes, and I've always said that I'm prone to weird things happening to me, so I'm never the wiser when I'm being pranked. For sake of anonymity, I won't go into details on previous pranks he's pulled, because a few have gotten quite a large number of views. But they're mostly harmless, annoying, etc. As much as I hate being pranked at the moment, he's never gone too far. He's always checking in on me, he gets my permission to post them, and all that. I guess I should say that he had never gone too far until yesterday. He texted me in the morning to confirm dinner plans we had that evening, and I replied asking if he needed me to pick up anything on my way home from work. At least twice a month, he cooks us an elaborate dinner. I'm talking about coordinated wine pairings, 5 courses, tasting menus, things like that. Like I said, he's a perfect boyfriend. I plan to FaceTime him at lunch like I always do, so no big deal. Well, he didn't answer me at lunch. No big deal, he's probably busy. I sent him a couple of texts after lunch, just random stuff, but he never responded. And when I finished work, my phone showed he had never even read them. I got a little anxious, admittedly, but pushed it aside. I don't need to hear from him constantly, but a sudden break in our routine feels weird because he always tells me in advance when something is going on if he's busy. Always. He also always forgets something for the dinners he makes us and asks me to grab something on the way home. Always. Not today, though. Anyway, I drove to his apartment from work and let myself in with a key he gave me. I expected to hear music, smell some dinner or something, but it was completely silent. I put my stuff down on the hall bench and walked toward the kitchen. I saw grocery bags at the kitchen's entrance, which I thought was weird. As soon as I entered the kitchen, I saw a broken wine glass at the far end of his kitchen island with a few drops of what I thought was red wine until I saw his feet sticking out. I sprinted around the island, and he was laying on his side, facing away from me. There was blood everywhere. On the edge of the island, splatters on the wall, and a large pool of blood around his head. I haven't made the sounds that came out of me since I got the call that my late partner passed. My heart was racing so bad that my chest and head hurt. Though I felt like I was in full-blown panic mode, I physically went into autopilot. I work in healthcare again, so I'm glad that my instincts kicked in. He was on his side, so I flipped him flat on his back. From what I gathered, trying to take a medical visual inventory of his injuries, it looked like he was just bleeding from his head. He didn't respond to my voice or a quick sternal rub. He wasn't moving at all, and when I put my ear to his mouth, I wasn't hearing or feeling breathing. He had blood all over his face, so I couldn't tell if his lips were blue or anything like that. I do remember checking for a pulse, and truthfully, I didn't feel one, though in hindsight, I can't be sure if I was mentally stable enough to discern one either way. So I tilted his head back and put my hands over his chest to start CPR while screaming at my phone for Siri to call 911. I only got 2 hard and fast compressions in which he miraculously came back from the dead screaming bloody murder. After that, I'm not gonna lie, I blacked out a bit. I remember getting lightheaded, my boyfriend shaking me, him apologizing. I remember him calling off 911, and I remember leaving his apartment covered in what I had obviously figured out was fake blood. I did get a call from 911 and police to confirm basically that my boyfriend had played a prank and no one needed help. Otherwise, I felt completely catatonic in a way. I disassociated. Needless to say, since last night, I have been a complete mess, and I'm devastated. The entire thing keeps playing in my head, and while the logical part of my brain knows that he pranked me and that he's alive, my body hasn't figured it out. Worse, this completely brought up everything surrounding my late partner, and I feel like I have to start my grieving process for him all over again. The anger I feel isn't a revenge type of anger, but an exhausted type of anger. The rage is so strong and intense that it's taken every ounce of my energy away from to act on any of it. And I guess that's a good thing. My boyfriend has tried calling me over 40 times. He sent me too many texts to count. He even came over to try and talk to me that same night. But luckily, even though he has a key, I have a deadbolt chain, so he wasn't able to get in. My neighbor, basically he shouted an apology through the crack and begged me to talk to him. My neighbor shooed him off after a while. My friends have also messaged me to ask if I was safe, saying he contacted them and told them everything. I've only texted one of my friends back. I have a therapy appointment tomorrow, but I just need to crowdsource thoughts right now. My boyfriend's sister called me this morning in tears, apologizing on her brother's behalf, and told me how sorry he is. She said that if he would have told her about the prank beforehand, she would have chewed him out for even thinking of the idea. Their parents were horrified as well and have said that they're here to support me in whatever way I need. His sister told me that he had come over to her house after I didn't let him into my place, and he was having a major anxiety attack with chest pain, racing heartbeat, and trouble breathing. It was so bad that she took him to the ER, where they learned that I had fractured a couple of his ribs while attempting to give him what I thought was life-saving CPR, and in the process had also punctured a lung. There are so many emotions going through my head right now. I am so angry at the world for yet again ripping away a man I love from me, because even though he's alive, I don't think that I'll ever be able to get over this. At the same time, I still love and care for him. It's like all I want to do is rush to the hospital to be by his side, while at the same time I feel like the sight of him would make me sick. He disgusts me in every way, yet the thought of being without him breaks me in ways that I can't explain. What should I do? Is there any possible way for me to heal from this? Do I even consider trying to fix things with him? Do I even want to make this work? Was this entire relationship a facade that he built up to sell a prank that is so personal and cruel and disgusting? Why would he do something that he knew would destroy me so thoroughly? What did I do to him that made him think I deserved this? How do I start my grieving process over while also processing this breakup? How can I ever trust anyone ever again? I mean, seriously, what the frack do I do? I think it just needs some time. I really do think it just needs some time. You have a therapy appointment tomorrow. Definitely use that. Talk over the feelings with that person who is professional. And he was a jerk for doing this. You must have made an impression on the family. The sister and the parents seem to really care about you, to be able to feel so sorry after what you went through. And maybe he just wasn't thinking. You listed a lot of positives about him. I think there are some positives you might be able to salvage from this relationship. I think he'd understand if you don't want to see him, even though he's in the hospital right now. This was totally his fault. I think he just misjudged this prank. And maybe you're not just such an easy target anymore. I think it would just take a lot of talk and like a little bit of time. And I think there's something to salvage. That's up to you. It's really up to you. If you think you want to start over, I mean, I would completely understand. But if you think you can salvage something with him, give it time. I think you can salvage something here.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.